Mystics, as the expression goes, sometimes you just gotta ask a professional. And that's what we're doing today on a segment we're calling Ask a Pastor. And we're bringing in Jason Elmore. He's going to give his firsthand experience on a myriad of different questions. And it's a conversation I know you will enjoy. So let's get started. Here's Jason Elmore on Mixed Up Mystics.
This is a production of Pioneer Dream, celebrating 30 years of moving stories for corporate, nonprofit, and entertainment partners. Please help us keep the conversation going by rating, liking, and subscribing to this podcast. Thank you. Also, make sure to check out our other podcasts, Hope for Humans, funny, usable conversations to help change the world around you, and Got a Minute Mini Podcast, presenting funny stories and independent music, all in about 15 minutes. Now, here's Jay and Anjanette Webster.
Mystics, welcome back to the podcast. We're so thrilled you're here. Hello, Anjanette.
Hey, how are you?
I am fantastic. We have a great brand new segment that we're introducing today.
Yes, I'm excited about it.
But before we get to that, let's do these quick announcements.
Okay.
Hey, on as much as you love hearing us in these conversations, wouldn't you love seeing us in person that much more?
Of course you would.
Yeah, you would. Hey, we're doing a Dreamers Live event on May 1st. We're actually calling it Uno de Mayo.
Yeah.
Uno de Mayo. Cinco de Mayo.
Mayo. Yeah.
Oh, man,
Well, it was close enough to Cinco de Mayo, and it was on the
very
1st.
Caucasian now.
You look very Caucasian.
Gosh, I was so proud of coming up with that name,
I
and
know.
then it was just
Uno de Mayo.
Uno de Mayo. Anyway,
Yeah.
So 1st of May, we're doing a Dreamers Live event. We're actually doing it as an outside event
Yes.
at our friends in the historic home of Harry and Mary
Yes.
Deeth.
On Cherokee Avenue. They have a
Right.
beautiful historic home and a really cool courtyard and backyard. So we will be there. Join us for festive
Beverages, probably some
and
sangria.
there will be some sangria. There will be some snacks of the chips and dips persuasion.
Nice.
It should be a fun time.
Yeah. So as always, you can find more information about everything we do at the dreamerscoalition.com website. It has all the dates for our Dreamers Live events and has everything about our podcast and on and on. You can also subscribe to The Dreamery, which is our newsletter. Just send us a quick email with your email address, and you can be on that newsletter, and you can cancel it anytime. You can sign other people up. They can cancel it anytime, but it's
That's
a
right.
great way to stay on top of everything that we do.
I like it because we just do it once a month, and
Yeah.
it just kind of lets everybody know what's going on. And
Lots
that's
of bonus material, free music, and on and on.
Yeah, definitely. Because Lord knows everybody gets annoyed. Did you ever sign up? Does this happen to you?
Oh, my gosh.
You sign up for like the gap.com
I
email or
feel like
something just to get their sales, and then they just three times a day.
Yeah, bludgeon you with electronic. And even though it's electronic, it still feels wasteful to me. I know that
does.
it's X's and O's and
Exactly.
characters, but
so
they're
we
wasteful.
forgive them and move on, but this
Yeah.
is just once a month, guys.
Yeah.
So sign up.
Guys, I'm excited about this part of the show. We have decided, this was Anjanette's idea,
It was.
why don't we do a segment periodically called Ask a Reverend? And it just so happens that we have a close relationship with a Reverend, though you may not suspect that we do. And it is our own Jason Elmore. Hello, Jason Elmore.
Hello, my children.
Do you feel you feel official?
I feel
respected?
Ever since that title was given to me,
Yes. The Reverend title?
the Reverend title, in 1980,
Yes.
I've just sort of felt embarrassed about it because I am quite irreverent.
Yeah.
And,
You are.
and I don't really like titles and hiding behind them. And
Right.
people find out you're a minister, and then they just start acting weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On
You
and
mean
on.
you don't want people to call you Pastor Jason?
No.
Well, then you should probably stop wearing the collar and robes when you go out.
I love the robes and the collar.
That's just for fun.
But I think the robe thing is less reverent and more theatrical for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just love a good costume.
I do. And as you know, I love the cross-dressing roles at
Yes.
the theater.
Yes.
Because
yes.
we will have a play where there's mistaken identity, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden someone has to swap gender
Right.
and go back and forth, and they say,
Yeah.
who could we cast? Oh, Jason.
You're like the white Medea. Is it?
Well, okay.
Wow,
This spiraled out quickly.
Okay.
Didn't it?
Wow, all right.
Yes, but thank you for being on Ask a Reverend.
We'll see how this may never get published. We'll see what happens.
But we
It's
decided
the segment that never happened.
you guys enjoy these conversations with us, and a lot of times we're always careful to say that we are not trained in any way to be able to give opinions on these things,
Right.
but we do it anyway. But sometimes there are things that
But you actually have some training and some history.
You've seen some stuff in your life. You know what I'm saying?
Been working in this capacity for a long time.
I have.
Yeah. So we thought we could bring in a reverend today.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We are thrilled to have you here. Of course, we love you, and everybody knows that, and we're close. And it's, it's interesting because over the last 30 or 35 years, I know you as my father-in-law, but I also know you as my friend, and we have conversations, and maybe over 100 different times, we're having a conversation, and it's eye-opening, it's revelatory, it's deep and mystical, and then you will say, I wish we could record just this thing that just happened, and then people could listen in on it or hear it or see it, and that is the truth of it. I mean, for anything good that we've had in the podcast, whether it's on mystics or Hope for Humans or whatever, we've had 1,000 of those conversations. We're just saying, man, I wish people were listening to this, because there are people who want to debate things, who have questions about things, and you think, we just covered it. I mean, and obviously it has nothing to do with our intellect, but it's just there's a moment and there's a deposit, and you're thinking, golly, you would say, that's really good. I wish people could hear it. And so, so this kind of relates to some of that. You're up to speed on the Mystics podcast, and we've been talking about this thing that we call, or that has been termed, deconstruction, or our friend Randy Cummings would call it dismantling.
Dismantling. Yeah.
So Anjan and I have been talking about this lately, where maybe as long as 20 or 25 years ago, we had the traditional, not a traditional church, but a traditional setting in which we met on Sunday mornings. We were early to this experience of what might have been like a mega church experience, in the sense that we had longer worship experiences. We had a big band. The band was on stage. The ceiling was blacked out. We had monitors for words.
Right.
The services would go on for lengthy periods of time. They'd be teaching stuff and all that jazz. And it was a really...
it was a big operation.
Yeah.
And we also had a youth group for the teenagers, and we had nursery. There was
all that stuff.
there was a time even
As
when
Robin
we had
Williams would say,
gift shop.
pack a lunch and stay for the day.
Yeah, that's right, definitely. Yeah.
So true.
And then on our way to the rest of our church history, a strange thing happened. And you started, and the church leadership started giving inklings or impressions or inspirations. Hey, let's change this part of the formula. Let's change this thing. And it wasn't like there was a grand master plan of saying, this is what we're going to do and this is where we're going. And there was no corporate meetings to say, we're changing things. Here's our 5-year plan. It was just like in the moment we were saying, it doesn't feel like there's as much light on this as there used to be. Let's change this and try that and do this. And so my question to start this was, what do you remember about those early moments when things started to change? What was that experience like? What did you sense in that time?
Well, it started at the peak, or the apex of where we were as a church, as far as attendance, excitement, energy, the presence of God, creativity, and all of that. And the first thing that happened was I got a sense that this doesn't have to be on Sunday. So if you recall, or you may have been out of town, but we had a period of time where we would take a month.
Yeah.
And in this month, instead of meet on Sunday, we would meet on Saturday night.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was a completely different dynamic. And it was well attended. But then the fact that we had Sunday off allowed us to either go worship somewhere else, but most likely just worship at home, most likely just sleep in and enjoy the quiet.
And
kind of developed an actual Sabbath rest.
Right.
It set it apart. And it caused me to look laterally, I think, at the church and see it from different perspective. So then we did another month where we did Friday nights. Then we had a period of time where I got a sense that we were going to be a non-Sunday church.
Yeah.
So we made some changes, made some announcements, in the church, and that we were not going to meet on Sunday morning after a particular date in the future, but we were going to meet on Friday nights.
And it was. I feel like it was interesting timing because you're right. I mean, we had it going on.
Yeah.
I mean, like it was. We were, as we would say, the Jerry.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it was. We were one of the biggest congregations in the city that we're in. People were, like you said, excitement, creativity, everybody, and so I think that had to be challenging for you in some ways. You're sensing God moving in one direction, but it's also like, hey, it's really going well the way it is. Remember the conflict there?
When we made that announcement that we were going to meet on Friday night church, we also did it with a name change from Encouraging Word to Friday night church. And people that had been with us for years or from the beginning who said, I want you to know that no matter what you do, I will be with you and I will have your back and we are one in the Lord. Well, all of a sudden, we were not one in the Lord.
Not so much.
And it was kind of like, hey, well, Jesus is telling me to go away. I don't know where, but he's just telling me to go away.
Right.
That kind of thing. Yeah. And so it really began to thin things out. So people who didn't feel like they had a line where they would, that they were just open to God, all of a sudden they found that line.
Right.
And they just couldn't go on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the outrage of introducing new Coke. It's like you messed with the formula.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, I'm drinking this Diet Coke can that looks more like a Coors Tall Boy.
It is a strange,
And it's got a very patriotic thing on it.
It's got an American
I want to
flag.
say it almost feels like we're compensating, but it's
It
whatever.
looks like a Bud Light. It's funny when I picked it
Occasionally
up.
somebody does something with the American flag and you feel like you're trolling for us. I don't understand.
Exactly. They are.
It's like you're using the flag to
which could be a
lure us
whole
in.
other podcast.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Whole other
Sorry for that
podcast.
diversion.
Yeah, really.
I interrupted you. You were saying.
Okay.
Well, I find it to me, and you might feel differently. I want to ask two questions. One, when I think about that, and when it is interesting that you've had the relationship with people, maybe 10 or 15 years long now, and then you start, and they've trusted us, trusted you and the leadership on everything for that period of time, and many of those people had really significant changes in their lives, and all that kind of stuff. And then, and like you say, then suddenly there's this line, and you're thinking, oh, "Wait, this is the line you're drawing?" I mean, with everything that we've been through together, and all the things that we've seen your family through, and all this is the line you're drawing.
Yeah.
It was odd to me. What did you see? Was there any indication about what the church body was going through in that moment? How did the leadership respond in that moment? Because it was a lot of people fairly quickly.
Defecting,
Yes,
as we say.
right.
Yes, defecting or the dismantling, as Randy
The
said.
dismantling, that's it.
Yeah. So that felt personally a bit insecure.
Yeah.
And scary.
Yeah.
To me. And I thought, whoa, wow, this is it, God. But then I do remember one of the most important things that happened was a word that you had, Jay, that God was jealous for the Sunday morning experience. Yeah. That the Sunday morning experience that you could get at Encouraging Word, joyful, jubilant, encouraging, exciting, cutting edge, all of that.
Right.
And then people would say, how are you doing? You're doing great, brother. Man, we're just killing it at church.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it was profound. And it was clearly from God when you said that he had spoken to your consciousness that he was jealous for the Sunday morning experience. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, I see as, I was going to use the word tantamount, but that sounds like a reverend.
Yeah.
That was commensurate. No, that sounded like Reverend. That was simultaneous. There you go.
Yeah.
With the beginning of the dismantling.
Yeah.
So it was like God was saying, okay, you've got the huge bands, you've got the great music, you've got this, you got the exciting this, cutting edge, you got parties, you're renting the community center, you're maxing out that hall, for a meal, party and all that. But he was saying, and I got the picture of a window, and he was making that window smaller.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was saying, if I should want to reduce that energy, that excitement, that almost chaos at times, if I was going to reduce that down and you had to go through a smaller window to get to me, would you?
Yeah.
And then we began to cut back on all of that and shrink it down. And the window got smaller and smaller. Right. And many people didn't feel like they could fit into that window or didn't want to.
Yeah.
Because they needed that Sunday morning experience as their relationship with God.
Exactly right.
In essence, it had sort of become a surrogate.
Yeah,
is what I
surrogate.
think. Yeah, it's sort of like for a lot of people, and it's understandable because as humans, we tend to just sort of go with the path of least resistance. It's unfortunately how we're wired and what we have to fight against. But for people, that was a lot. It seemed like for a lot of people, that was the entirety of their relationship with God. It's what would happen in the big pump 'em up on Sunday.
Yeah, and so to quote Mr. Pym's character in this play I recently did, I like one line where he heard something and he just wasn't sure what he heard, from Lady Martin. He says, I feel I'm a bit adrift. So in the picture I got, although the line never really got any laughs, but just bobbing on the sea, just bobbing, nothing as far as you can see anywhere. And I think that's the way people felt, understandably.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have the term at the time, but it was kind of, now that I look back at it, it was kind of the expression of consumerism or consumer church.
Yeah.
So we had these programs.
True.
We had the youth thing. We had the food pantry. We had the gift shop. We had the coffee shop. We had the Monday night football thing. We had the big worship experience and all that. And I think we were starting to unknowably dismantle or unravel that a little bit. And so we were saying, as you were saying, this thing has kind of become a thing unto itself. And so many of the things within the Christian experience and what we call church can exist without God. I mean, scriptures can exist without God. You can read the scriptures without relating to Jesus, without knowing God. You can do the music, you can do all that stuff. And at some moment, these things do kind of rival this intimacy of this person. I'm glad, at that time we were still working through the church at large, not necessarily an encouraging word, but people who were in this prosperity thing. And so you give money to get money. You give money for prosperity, and you were challenging God. I'm going to give you so much money and you're going to give me so much. It was like a Ponzi scheme almost. And, but that was all part of that kind of historic moment for us. Do you remember any moment, because all the stuff was just kind of happening like step by step. There was this leading to change this. Then after a couple months, there was this leading to change this. And was there any moment where you thought, oh, this is not just a season or phase. This is kind of a new thing, this is where we're going.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, for my life, and for my ministry, I had always noticed that I had been used to do things in a new way.
Yeah, it's true.
And not consult the history of things, but rather ask the why question.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to do 3 songs. We're going to use the organ. We're going to use the piano. We're going to sing all 4 verses.
Yes.
And to me, there was so much you could think about in just one verse of one song. Why do 3 songs? Why do 12 verses? Because it just spills out over everybody, and it's just kind of, stuff like that. So changing that, and then finding that there was life and music that was outside of the church, secular music, secular stuff, and bringing that in and mixing it. So I'd always been used in doing that. And when we began Encouraging Word, that was something that had not been done. And we I guess, pioneered some things and posed the question back in 1987, it's not what you wear, but it's why you wear it.
Yes, right.
Yeah. And then a whole other story, it's not so important what you wear, but it is where you park. When we used to meet downtown outside the Women's Center.
But that's been a mark of your life and how God has used you to lead. I mean, I've observed that since I've been on the planet, that no matter what setting, we started out in traditional church and, Baptist denomination, and then starting Encouraging Word, that you are a forerunner, a pioneer, someone that we've been talking about prophecy, which is a weird thing to talk about, but I watched you always be on the front end of what God was doing. Okay. And really, when I think about, I say this, we had the first megachurch. I mean, I look at a lot of churches have become now, and there's nothing wrong with that. Their heart is to reach a lot of people, and we know so many great people who are involved in that, but that's what we did first. I mean, that's what that wasn't, when we were doing that 25 years ago, that's become what church is now for a lot of people in the non-denominational sense, but that was, you were being led and moved to do that. And so then I feel like watching you as an observer, then you were also at the front end of what we would call the deconstruction or the dismantling. And that's not as fun as being a forerunner on something that's popular,
Right.
So
I think it's interesting to go back now and, especially in seeing, remembering this historic moment. I remember a lot of the conversation that happened at that time as we were talking about this consumer thing. And I think, as you referenced, it was damaging because we essentially had this relationship with these people for 10 or 15 years. And then we found out that even though we were trying to teach them to have their own connection to God and all that kind of stuff and to be personally responsible for that relationship and on and on and on, we found out that no, really what they're living on is what happens on this 3 hours on Sunday morning, and that's it. So if you remove that 3 hours or you mess with that 3 hours, there's a lot of trouble there. And so that became a thing. And so then I remember as we began to kind of roll back the programs and roll back the consumer element of church, there was this reoccurring message that was happening at that time, which was, look, you can't be here in the building all the time. You can't be trapped 3 nights a week coming to programs and playing church softball and coming to the Bible studies and doing that stuff and then expect to somehow be helping the community. You have to, the message was, get out. Get out of here. Show up.
Yeah, God's word to the church, get out.
Yeah, show up, get connected, give to other people, do this in this little corporate thing, but then leave. And so we spent a lot of time in that moment in history saying, you've got to get out of here and go out, and you've got this goodness in you. Go give it. Go do it somewhere,
Yeah.
I was thinking back about, sports is one of my hobbies, and how I loved playing softball. Oh, my gosh, loved it.
You're good at it, too.
Oh, well, thank you.
And you coached our girls' team, Dad.
Yes, that's
You
right.
did so good.
Well, I still have that ball from 1999 undefeated, and everybody signed it.
Oh, that's so cool.
Which team was that? One of yours, right?
Yeah, you were on that team.
I was on the team?
Oh, yeah,
I just remember I'm still forgiving you for when you were a great coach, but when I would play softball, and I was a pretty good batter, and I would get up and you'd be like, put your weight into it. And I was like, Dad, don't say that. I was a teenager.
So sorry.
It's okay. You just meant like put it on your back foot and use it, but it's okay, Dad.
Anyway, it's hard to believe that at that time that we had 6 softball teams.
Oh,
That's crazy. We had 6.
Yeah, 2 girls teams, 4 men's
Which
teams,
means
all
you're at
different.
the softball fields most nights.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're not
and
at
hanging
church.
out with other people that
Christians.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so it was all good.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
one of you go ahead.
Okay.
So now that
I'm gonna sip my energy
I
drink.
probably should have started with this, but now that you have been through some of this, and you can kind of track it, we can see the path of what deconstruction looks like, and it's been a moment. It's been like I said, it's 20, 25 years of this. It's also interesting. I remember, you and I were talking on Saturday for a second. I saw you were having coffee, and I was saying, I remember when this thing started, and we had kind of, like you said, it was coming on the heels of a season where there was a lot of experiential parts of Christianity and this creativity and all this energy and all that kind of stuff. And then unannounced, we went into the season where across the board things kind of went really quiet.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, well, this is an odd season. I hope we're almost done with it. And that was 25 years ago. And so it's not there has been inspiration or leading. It's just that it's such a stark contrast to where we were in that moment.
Yeah, I want to interrupt you. Sorry, Jay. Thinking back on this, the so-called Toronto blessing and whatnot, which was a real deal.
Yeah.
We took trips to Toronto. We really received the Spirit of God. It was life-changing, church-changing, church-altering.
Yeah.
I got this image of a hand holding the handle of a pitcher.
Yes, I remember this.
And as it was pouring out the Spirit, that this hand was raising it up.
Yeah.
And so it was then that we began to back off and go in a new way. And that was simultaneous with this quiet period. What are we going to do with this?
Yeah, it was sort of like bad timing, God. Thanks. We make all these changes you showed us to do, and then it gets really
so for
quiet.
those who don't really know or understand deconstruction, this is probably where I should have started, but it's okay. What are the traits of deconstruction, or how do you describe deconstruction? What is this?
Parts.
Okay.
Occam's razor, the whole idea that if you can find a simpler way to do something, it's going to be more effective.
Yeah.
So right now, quote, my ministry has fewer moving parts than ever.
Yeah.
Our church has fewer moving parts than ever. And I have never been more fulfilled and happy with the way I get to do ministry every day.
Yeah.
I get up and I come downtown or I go wherever I'm going, and things are people-centered now.
Right.
Instead of event-centered or crowd-centered.
Yeah.
And I can be present with people. I can meet strangers. I can take time to have a conversation. I can take time to love people. And I'm not producing.
Right.
And we have changed the implied warranty that you come into our church, we will meet whatever needs you have. We will fix whatever is broken.
Right.
And so I no longer spend time with that, and we change things to people taking their own responsibility for their relationship with God. Yeah. And that is the only thing that stabilizes people, the only thing that makes people happy and fulfilled and brings peace and lets them live in this crazy life without living like their hair is on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting that you're describing kind of top-heavy ministries or churches where there's just so much. And I'm thinking of, we had a friend who is in our industry, who's in advertising, had a really great firm here for a long time. And it started out just as him. He's an extremely creative person, just really amazing. And then the demand got bigger, so he hired on some people to help with that demand.
More clients, bigger clients.
Before it was over,
he was a satellite office in a different town.
Yeah, before it was all over, he was just managing.
Yeah.
He did very little to no design on his own.
Exactly.
He was just managing all this
Putting
stuff.
out fires.
And that's the way the church has become.
And that's a picture of the way that ministers have to work. Yeah. And I am sympathetic to that and empathetic to that because I have done that.
Yeah.
And so I see the pressure that these guys and gals are under that are pastoring churches. And virtually all of their work is administrative.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're trying to please the shareholders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
just like a business.
Oh, and it's God gets absent or hidden or obfuscated or something.
I think that's another trait. That right there, what you're saying is, so there's a thing that happened in this kind of top-heavy thing, and maybe where we were early, 20 years ago, where you could kind of take God out of some of that stuff. He would kind of get lost in the shuffle of all that. And this paring things down, I think, allowed us to get simpler and allowed us to see him more in that. But there was a hiding. There was a lot of buzz. There was a lot of movement. There was a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff to hide behind.
Yeah. And as we said, somehow it was like there was, I'm thinking of somebody showing up on the scene, and then there's a crowd of people around them, and the crowd gets so busy and there's so much chaos and movement that the person you've come to see kind of gets pushed out of the circle, gets pushed out of the crowd. And I think that happens for us a lot. Yeah. And it is really interesting. And I was having this conversation over this weekend with somebody, and we were talking about kind of the history of this conversation. This subject came up, and I was thinking about all the people that we met with, and that the elders met with, and the church leadership met with, and did all this counseling and all that kind of stuff, and how little of it had staying power. Right. So the demand was there, and the energy was there, and all this effort was put into all this stuff that you're describing, and that yet when you step back 5, 10, 15 years, you can't find those people anywhere, and none of it lasted. Right. Because they didn't take any personal responsibility in the process.
Yeah, yes. I agree. Here's what I'm curious about, Dad. I've always observed you and your ministry and the way that God uses you, like we talked about, as a forerunner or a pioneer, to experience things first. And you are gifted with a real personal strength and courage. It's part of who you are to do that, because that is not fun to be at the front of something that everybody thinks is going great and being like, hey, this is great. I feel like we're going a different direction. And people are going to leave, and it's going to be, but I've watched you over and over do that. And that's because of the love that you have for God and your friendship with Jesus that you're able to do that. But I feel like more and more churches, and probably some of the churches that our listeners are part of, will be going through these things. I mean, you got to do it first in a lot of ways.
Going through it or resisting it.
Yeah. How do you see deconstruction or dismantling or these changes? Do you feel like you see some of that coming to the surface? You work with a lot of ministers.
I do. I mean, I have led the ministerial association in town for a number of years.
They won't let you quit. Every time they say, you're our president forever. Yeah. But that's because you minister and love on them. It's not another expectation. You want to help them. So.
Well, in my friendships and relationships and lunch friends and whatnot, and we talk about these things. I will never forget a pastor of and you can't figure out who this is, a pastor of a prominent church. And I was having a lunch with, and they said, Jace, I am so looking forward to retirement, because then I can begin ministry.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sad.
So, that's the state of the pressure of administrating it and being God's man of power or woman of power for the hour. Mm-hmm. Your heart is breaking. Maybe you're having terrible difficulty at home with your children, with your finances. There's a big storm that comes on a Saturday night, and it may or may not snow, and then you've got to make a decision. It's going to cost $1,000, and you got to hire someone to clear the parking lot. Right. So 20% of the people will show because of the weather, and unless you bring in $5,421.12, you're not going to make payroll, and you got to stand there and be God's man of power for the hour.
Right.
I know that stress.
Yeah.
And I am sorry for it. And I think one of the things that helps is friendships with ministers. Friendships, more so than meetings.
Yeah, for sure.
Chase, I mean, now that you've seen a lot of this history, and this, whatever this thing is, deconstruction, dismantling, this new season, it's obviously not over. It's it's still, we're still seeing it. We're still evolving in it and with it. Where do you see that going? What do you think is the outcome of this? What is this? Where are we in 5 or 10 years?
Well, hopefully more of the church has gone through this and accepted it. Because as you're asking that question, I hear the words of Jesus say, "Who do you say that I am?"
Yeah.
That's where it's going.
Yeah.
That's where it's going. It's not what you believe, what you do, everything, but it's Jay Webster, "Who do you say that I am?"
Yeah.
And Anjanette, "Who do you say that Jason, who do you say that I am? Joni, who do you say that I am?"
Right.
You know, you are the Christ. You are the Son of the living God. You are my love. You are my all. You are my energy. I am animated by you. I am totally at peace by you. I can live and love every day and find beauty and meaning in everything because of you, because stuff has been stripped away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really amazing. Yeah. And I do think we'll see that. I think it's, as we say, it's, I'm grateful for the way that we were structured when we went through it. I'm grateful that you had the courage to respond. Each time an insight came up or an inspiration came up or leading or however you want to describe that, you were responsive. And it took a lot of courage to do that. And it wasn't always easy. There were a lot of questions. There were a lot of people, even within the leadership, saying, "Are we doing the right thing?" I'm also grateful that you personally had that sense and that leadership. It wasn't somebody coming in from the outside saying, "I think we should do this, this, and this." This was stuff that you were seeing and were inspired in. And I think that gave you the confidence that, yes, this is the right thing. It's not just listening to advisors. It's just, no, I feel this. This is what we're supposed to do. And so I do think it's going to be a challenge for a lot of people. There are a lot of larger churches with payrolls at stake and buildings at stake and programs at stake that have a lot of money. And so to be open to the idea that maybe that we're done with this, or maybe that's not what God's doing right now, or maybe we need to tone this back.
Yeah, that's epic.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge for a lot of people. But I think the appetite will continue to grow in people for something that is clean and for something that is stripped back and that is something that
is honest and authentic.
Yeah, that has fewer bells and whistles and bedazzlement and, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I was going to say, in the middle of the current geopolitical climate or current culture in our country or politics or however you want to look at it, every day is going to be noisier and more complicated.
Right.
And what's in contrast to that and what's anchoring to that is to be centered in Jesus and Jesus centered in you, so that as everything spins and gets louder and quicker and more complicated, you know who you are, you know who he is, and you know it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so I think maybe as we get further down this road, I think like you and I were talking about on Saturday for a minute over that coffee, that, I think maybe as this deconstruction continues, there'll be a further dismantling of our, relationship as the church with politics, with pop culture. We'll begin to kind of separate ourselves out so that we do have something to offer. Right now, whatever we're offering looks so much more like everything that's around us.
Yeah.
What we're offering is more politics.
Yeah.
What we're offering is more pop culture. What we're offering is more
Bells
consumerism.
and whistles, more red, white, and blue, more red, white, and blue, and the cross,
Yeah. So dismantling, I think, will be a stripping of all that periphery stuff, all those, all that bedazzlement will start to be stripped away. And think, oh, this is it. This is what I was looking for.
That's right. I think when we spend time with him and his heart beats with our heartbeat, we want to cry when we think of Iranians that are being killed with bombs that are put to, and the fusion of politics with the gospel of Jesus.
Yes.
I mean, they should be allergic to each other.
Yeah.
And anyway, I'm sorry. I have some
I think that's
sadness
exactly
about
right.
that.
So true. I think it would be, for people that are listening and are seeing some of this and perhaps their own churches or in their own life, I think the key is maybe to be excited about what God is doing and not to fear the changes, because the truth is it really just brings more light to who Jesus is and what we can do in our own hearts and in our own lives to love people. It can be scary. And I also would say to, encourage you're going to see people that are in leadership struggle with these things.
Yes.
And so what you can do is you can love them and you can support them and say, hey,
Right.
I see what's going on and I've got your back,
Right.
and allow for more and more of that to happen, because I feel like what's going to be on the other side of that is the separation that needs to happen.
Yeah.
And, the clarity of who that is and what we truly believe.
Yes.
And so I think I guess that's why I don't like the word deconstruction or dismantling, because they're both D and dis. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, to me, I think on the other side of that, it's just sort of this curtain getting pulled back so that we can really see what God is.
Yes.
And that people that don't know him and don't know his love have a clearer shot of seeing it.
Yes.
I love the way that no matter where I'm at, with no matter what people, if they're in church or not in church or in a bar or whatnot, Jesus starts. All you do is you just love people. You listen to them. You hug them. They pour out their heart. They're experiencing Jesus.
Yeah.
But we all have that power. Yeah. And if we could just allow that, just to break open ourselves and allow him to come out, because people love who Jesus is.
Yeah.
And people tend to hate what the church is about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of these two things as you're saying that about, these kind of classic kind of 80s movies scenes where there's a girl and,
It's how your brain works in 80s movies, 70s songs and 80s movies.
Okay, bring it.
There's always there's always a character who's a little insecure, and so to compensate, she's always adorned with a bunch of stuff and all the hair products and all poofy shoulder pads and this whole thing. And then there's this one scene where something happens and someone comes up to help and they take the earrings off and they take the pad, the shoulder pads off, and they just comb out the hair, and then you're just left with this natural beauty, the person as they really are. And in that moment, they look radiant. They are beautiful, but it was the adornment, the fake adornment, the stuff that was actually covering them because of the insecurity. And I think about that, with what's happening with the church right now. It's you're pulling off all the other facade. You're pulling all the affectation off. Everything that's getting in the way, everything that we've heaped onto this thing and super glued to it and hot gunned, to this thing that should never have had anything on it. And then I'm also thinking about, we keep describing this as kind of a quiet moment, or has been quiet for a long time. But I'm thinking of the proverb, or the picture that Jesus lays out about the seed that gets planted, and then the sun goes down, and whether you know it or not, and you can't perceive that it's actually happening, but there's something that's happening this whole time, and it's always growing. Yeah. And that God is always working. So even when it seems like there's nothing happening, even when it's all below the surface, even when you can't see it, there's nothing above the ground to tell you something magical is happening down here. Yeah. God is always doing something. So for many of us, it has felt like, it feels quiet. Yeah. And it's been harder to make a connection. It's all this thing. And yet now we're finding out, all along, stuff was happening. All along, he was orchestrating things. All along, he was maneuvering and putting things into place. And that's an amazing picture.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Man.
It's good.
Well, Mystics, this has been fantastic, and so grateful for Jason to be able to be here. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us.
I enjoyed it.
I think our first Ask a Reverend was a raging success.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, no, it was really good.
And we had you had less language because your dad was here, which was nice.
Well, sometimes we cuss on the podcast, Dad.
I know, I like it.
I know.
It's naturally occurring.
We don't plan on it. It just happens.
Hell yes.
Sometimes. Hell yes.
Mystics, we love having this conversation with you. If you want to weigh in this, just send us a note. I'm sure we'll see you on the streets. Many of you will come up later on. We'll talk about this when we're getting coffee and whatever, and we love that. And if you have a conversation or a question for Jason, you can message that too. We'll get it to him.
Yeah.
And then he'll be back on, as we say, periodically for the Ask a Reverend.
As the Spirit leads.
Yes,
as we say.
Yes. But until then, join us on Uno de Mayo.
Nice.
You got it done.
May 1st at the home of Harry Mary Deeth. And it's going to be fun. It'll be an outside thing. There'll be foods and festivities and drinks and beverages and all those things. Yeah. And we'll get to see your faces in person.
That's right.
And between now and then, peace out.
All right. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, and share this episode. And remember, continue this conversation with someone you know. This is Pioneer Dream.